The circadian rhythm is the foundational system that determines when you feel awake and when you feel sleepy, and it is primarily regulated by light exposure. At the center of this system is a small cluster of neurons in the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, located in the hypothalamus. This structure acts as the body's master clock, coordinating daily cycles in hormone release, body temperature, alertness, and sleep timing. What makes this system unique is that it is not fixed internally. It relies heavily on external cues, with light being the most powerful signal. When light enters the eyes, it is detected not only by the rods and cones responsible for vision, but also by specialized cells called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. These cells are particularly sensitive to blue wavelengths of light and send direct signals to the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This input tells the brain whether it is day or night, allowing it to adjust physiological processes accordingly. Morning light exposure is especially important because it sets the phase of the circadian rhythm for the entire day. When you get sufficient light exposure early in the day, it triggers a cascade of biological events. Cortisol levels rise in a healthy, time-locked manner, promoting alertness and energy. At the same time, the timing of melatonin release is scheduled for later in the evening. This means that your ability to fall asleep at night is directly influenced by how well your brain was exposed to light in the morning. Without this signal, the circadian rhythm can drift, leading to delayed sleep onset, reduced sleep quality, and difficulty waking up. As the day progresses, light continues to play a role in maintaining alignment. Exposure to natural light during daylight hours reinforces the signal that it is time to be awake and active. In contrast, as evening approaches, reducing light exposure, especially from artificial sources, becomes critical. Artificial light, particularly from screens and LED lighting, can suppress melatonin production by mimicking the wavelengths of daylight. This delays the brain's transition into a sleep-ready state, even if you feel physically tired. The timing of light exposure is just as important as the intensity. Light late at night can shift the circadian rhythm later, making it harder to fall asleep the next night and creating a cycle of misalignment. This is often referred to as a phase delay. On the other hand, early morning light can shift the rhythm earlier, helping you wake up more easily and feel sleepy at an appropriate time. These shifts are not just subjective. They reflect measurable changes in hormone release and neural activity. Consistency is key in maintaining circadian alignment. Irregular patterns of light exposure, such as staying up late with bright lights and waking up at different times each day, confuse the suprachiasmatic nucleus, leading to a mismatch between internal timing and external demands. This can result in reduced sleep efficiency, lower energy levels, and impaired cognitive performance. Even factors like weather and indoor environments can influence this system. Natural sunlight is significantly brighter than most indoor lighting, even on cloudy days. Spending time outdoors, especially in the morning, provides a stronger and more reliable signal to the brain than artificial light alone. This is why brief exposure to natural light soon after waking can have a disproportionate impact on sleep quality later that night. By aligning light exposure with your biological clock, bright light early in the day and minimal light at night, you create the conditions for a stable and predictable sleep pattern. This alignment supports not only better sleep, but also improved mood, focus, and overall physiological balance. Sleep pressure is governed by a biological process that builds throughout the day and is largely driven by the accumulation of a molecule called adenosine in the brain. From the moment you wake up, adenosine begins to increase as a byproduct of cellular energy use. The longer you remain awake, the more adenosine accumulates, creating a growing drive to sleep. This process is what gives you the sensation of fatigue and the natural urge to rest at the end of the day. Adenosine acts by binding to specific receptors in the brain, particularly in areas that regulate alertness and arousal. When it binds to these receptors, it reduces neural activity in wake-promoting regions, making you feel less alert and more ready for sleep. This mechanism ensures that after a sufficient period of wakefulness, the brain transitions into a state that favors rest and recovery. During sleep, especially deep sleep, adenosine levels are gradually cleared, resetting the system for the next day. The interaction between sleep pressure and the circadian rhythm is critical. While the circadian system determines the timing of when you are likely to feel awake or sleepy, sleep pressure determines how strongly you feel that need for sleep. When both systems are aligned, meaning sleep pressure is high at the same time your circadian rhythm is promoting sleep, you fall asleep more easily and experience deeper, more restorative sleep. If they are misaligned, such as when you nap late in the day or disrupt your schedule, it can become harder to fall asleep even if you feel tired. Caffeine directly interferes with this system by blocking adenosine receptors. Structurally, caffeine resembles adenosine closely enough that it can bind to the same receptors without activating them. This prevents adenosine from exerting its sleep-promoting effects, temporarily increasing alertness and reducing the sensation of fatigue. However, caffeine does not stop adenosine from accumulating. It simply masks its effects. As a result, once the caffeine wears off, the accumulated adenosine can lead to a sudden drop in energy. The timing of caffeine intake is therefore crucial. Consuming caffeine too late in the day can interfere with sleep by continuing to block adenosine receptors when your body is trying to transition into a sleep state. Even if you are able to fall asleep, caffeine can reduce the amount of deep sleep you get, which impacts recovery and overall sleep quality. Because caffeine has a relatively long half-life, its effects can persist for several hours, meaning afternoon or evening consumption can still influence nighttime sleep. Napping also affects sleep pressure. Short naps can be beneficial for restoring alertness, but longer or late-day naps can reduce the buildup of adenosine, making it harder to fall asleep at night. This is because sleep pressure is partially discharged during the nap, leaving less drive for nighttime sleep. Managing the duration and timing of naps is important to maintain a strong sleep signal at the end of the day. Physical and mental activity influence how quickly sleep pressure builds. Engaging in effortful tasks, exercise, and cognitive work increases energy expenditure, which can accelerate adenosine accumulation. This contributes to a stronger sense of fatigue at night and can improve sleep quality. In contrast, prolonged inactivity or irregular patterns of activity can lead to a weaker buildup of sleep pressure, making sleep feel less necessary and more difficult to initiate. By understanding how adenosine and sleep pressure function, you can structure your day in a way that supports natural sleep drive. Allowing sufficient wake time, managing caffeine intake, and maintaining consistent activity levels all contribute to a system where the urge to sleep builds appropriately, leading to more efficient and restorative rest. Sleep is composed of multiple stages that cycle throughout the night, and the quality of your sleep depends on how effectively you move through these stages, particularly deep non-REM sleep and REM sleep. These stages are not interchangeable. Each one serves distinct biological functions that are essential for physical recovery, brain function, and emotional stability. Non-REM sleep begins shortly after you fall asleep and progresses into deeper stages. The deepest phase, often referred to as slow-wave sleep, is characterized by synchronized low-frequency brain activity. During this stage, the body enters a state of profound physical restoration. Growth hormone is released, which supports tissue repair, muscle recovery, and overall cellular regeneration. The immune system is also highly active during this time, strengthening the body's ability to fight off illness. One of the most critical processes that occurs during deep sleep is the clearing of metabolic waste from the brain. This is carried out by the glymphatic system, a network that becomes more active during sleep. Cerebrospinal fluid flows through brain tissue, removing byproducts that accumulate during wakefulness, including proteins associated with neurodegenerative conditions. This cleansing process is significantly reduced when deep sleep is insufficient, which can impact long-term brain health. REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement sleep, typically occurs in cycles later in the night and becomes more prominent toward the early morning hours. This stage is associated with vivid dreaming and is marked by increased brain activity that resembles wakefulness in many ways. During REM sleep, the brain is highly engaged in processing emotional experiences and integrating new information with existing memories. Emotional regulation is one of the key functions of REM sleep. Experiences that carry emotional weight are reprocessed in a way that reduces their intensity while preserving their informational content. This allows you to remember events without being overwhelmed by the associated feelings. When REM sleep is disrupted, emotional responses can become exaggerated and stress levels may increase as the brain has not had sufficient opportunity to recalibrate. REM sleep also plays a role in learning and creativity. It facilitates the integration of information across different domains, allowing for pattern recognition and problem solving. This is why insights or new ideas often emerge after a good night of sleep. The brain is effectively reorganizing and optimizing neural connections, making it more efficient at processing complex information. The cycling between non-REM and REM sleep occurs in roughly 90-minute intervals, with each cycle contributing to overall restoration. Early in the night, deep non-REM sleep dominates, focusing on physical repair and recovery. As the night progresses, REM sleep periods become longer, emphasizing cognitive and emotional processing. Disruptions to this cycle, whether from waking up frequently, exposure to light, or irregular sleep schedules, can reduce the time spent in these critical stages. Factors such as alcohol, caffeine, stress, and inconsistent sleep timing can all interfere with the architecture of sleep. For example, alcohol may initially make you feel drowsy, but often reduces REM sleep later in the night. Similarly, stress can increase nighttime awakenings, fragmenting the sleep cycle and limiting access to deeper stages. Optimizing sleep stages involves not just getting enough total sleep, but ensuring that the conditions support uninterrupted cycling through these phases. When deep sleep and REM sleep are both adequately achieved, the result is a more restored body, a more regulated emotional state, and a brain that is better prepared for learning and performance. Temperature and environmental conditions play a critical role in determining how quickly you fall asleep and how deeply you stay asleep throughout the night. The brain and body follow a natural rhythm in which core body temperature gradually decreases in the evening as part of the transition into sleep. This drop in temperature is not just a side effect of sleep, it is a necessary signal that helps initiate and maintain it. If this process is disrupted, it can become significantly harder to fall asleep and achieve deep, restorative rest. The body regulates temperature through a combination of internal mechanisms and external interactions with the environment. As bedtime approaches, blood flow to the extremities, such as the hands and feet, increases. This allows heat to dissipate from the core, facilitating the cooling process. When the environment supports this heat loss, such as a cool room, it accelerates sleep onset. In contrast, if the room is too warm, the body struggles to lower its core temperature, delaying the transition into sleep and increasing the likelihood of restlessness. A slightly cool environment is generally optimal for sleep because it aligns with the body's natural thermoregulatory process. This does not mean being uncomfortably cold, but rather maintaining a temperature that allows the body to release heat efficiently. Bedding and clothing also play a role, as materials that trap too much heat can interfere with this process. Breathable fabrics and layers that can be adjusted during the night help maintain a stable thermal environment. Pre-sleep behaviors can influence temperature regulation as well. Taking a warm shower or bath before bed may seem counterintuitive, but it can actually promote sleep. The heat from the water causes blood vessels near the skin to dilate, increasing heat loss once you step out. This leads to a faster drop in core body temperature, signaling to the brain that it is time to sleep. Timing matters, as this effect is most beneficial when it occurs within a window before bedtime. Light exposure is another crucial environmental factor. Darkness signals the brain to produce melatonin, the hormone that facilitates sleep. Even small amounts of light, particularly in the blue spectrum, can suppress melatonin and disrupt this process. This includes light from screens, overhead lighting, or even ambient sources in the room. Creating a dark sleep environment by reducing or eliminating light exposure supports the natural hormonal signals that promote sleep. Noise also affects sleep quality, often in subtle ways. Even if you do not fully wake up, intermittent or unpredictable sounds can fragment sleep by shifting brain activity toward lighter stages. This reduces the amount of time spent in deep sleep and REM sleep, which are essential for recovery. A quiet environment is ideal, but if that is not possible, consistent background noise, such as white noise, can help mask disruptive sounds and create a more stable auditory environment. The bedroom itself acts as a contextual cue for the brain. When the environment is consistently associated with sleep, it strengthens the connection between entering that space and the onset of sleepiness. This means that using the bed primarily for sleep, rather than for activities like work or prolonged screen use, can reinforce this association and improve sleep efficiency over time. Air quality and ventilation also contribute to sleep quality. Fresh, well-circulated air supports comfortable breathing and helps regulate temperature. Stuffy or poorly ventilated environments can lead to discomfort and restlessness, even if other factors are optimized. By aligning your environment with the body's natural tendencies, cooling the room, minimizing light and noise, and creating consistent associations, you support the biological processes that initiate and maintain sleep. These external conditions work in conjunction with internal rhythms, making it easier for the brain and body to transition into a state of deep and uninterrupted rest. Consistency in sleep and wake timing is one of the most powerful factors for improving sleep quality because it directly stabilizes the circadian rhythm. The brain's internal clock relies on predictable patterns to coordinate physiological processes such as hormone release, body temperature fluctuations, and cycles of alertness and fatigue. When you go to bed and wake up at the same time each day, you reinforce this internal timing system, making it easier for the body to anticipate when to be awake and when to prepare for sleep. The circadian rhythm does not just respond to light, it also responds to behavior. Regular sleep and wake times act as signals that align internal processes with external demands. When this timing is consistent, melatonin release becomes more predictable, typically rising in the evening and falling in the morning at the same times each day. This predictability makes it easier to fall asleep quickly and wake up feeling refreshed, as the body is already prepared for these transitions. Irregular sleep schedules, on the other hand, disrupt this system. Going to bed and waking up at different times each day confuses the brain's internal clock, leading to a mismatch between when the body expects to sleep and when you actually try to sleep. This can result in difficulty falling asleep, frequent awakenings, and reduced overall sleep quality. Even if the total amount of sleep is sufficient, inconsistency can prevent the body from entering deeper, more restorative stages effectively. One common example of this disruption is the difference between weekday and weekend schedules. Staying up late and waking up later on weekends can shift the circadian rhythm, creating a form of social jet lag. When the week begins again, the body is out of sync, making it harder to wake up early and feel alert. This repeated shifting can have cumulative effects, reducing energy levels, impairing focus, and increasing overall fatigue. Wake-up time is particularly important because it anchors the circadian rhythm. While many people focus on when they go to bed, the time you wake up has a stronger influence on setting the internal clock. Waking up at a consistent time each day ensures that light exposure, hormone release, and activity patterns occur in a stable sequence. This, in turn, determines when you will feel naturally sleepy later in the evening. Consistency also interacts with sleep pressure. When you wake up at the same time every day, the buildup of adenosine follows a predictable pattern, leading to a consistent level of sleepiness at night. If wake times vary significantly, this buildup becomes irregular, making it harder to feel ready for sleep at a desired time. Behavioral cues associated with consistent timing further reinforce sleep patterns. Activities such as dimming lights, reducing stimulation, and following a pre-sleep routine signal to the brain that sleep is approaching. When these cues occur at the same time each night, they become linked with the onset of sleep, strengthening the association and improving sleep onset latency. Over time, maintaining a consistent schedule increases sleep efficiency, meaning you spend more of your time in bed actually sleeping rather than trying to fall asleep. It also improves the stability of sleep stages, allowing for better cycling between deep sleep and REM sleep. The key is not perfection but regularity. Small variations are manageable, but large and frequent shifts can disrupt the system. By keeping sleep and wake times aligned as closely as possible each day, you create a stable framework that supports all other aspects of sleep. The transition into sleep requires a shift in the nervous system, from a state of activation to a state of calm, and this process is heavily influenced by how you manage your mental and physiological state in the hours leading up to bedtime. During the day, the brain and body are often in a heightened state of alertness driven by the sympathetic nervous system, which supports focus, movement, and response to external demands. For sleep to occur efficiently, this activation needs to decrease, allowing the parasympathetic system to take over and promote relaxation and recovery. One of the main challenges is that modern environments tend to keep the nervous system activated well into the evening. Exposure to screens, constant information input, and ongoing cognitive engagement can maintain high levels of alertness, even when the body is physically tired. This creates a mismatch where the brain remains active and stimulated, delaying the onset of sleep. The key to improving sleep is to deliberately reduce this activation and create conditions that signal to the brain that it is safe to transition into rest. Physiologically, this shift involves lowering heart rate, reducing cortisol levels, and stabilizing neural activity. Practices that promote slow, controlled breathing are particularly effective because they directly activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Breathing patterns that emphasize longer exhales help slow the heart rate and reduce overall arousal, creating a state that is more conducive to sleep. Over time, regularly engaging in these practices strengthens the body's ability to downregulate more quickly. Mental activity also plays a significant role. Racing thoughts, chinta about the future, or replaying events from the day can keep the brain in a state of heightened engagement. This is often linked to activity in the default mode network, which generates internal narratives and self-referential thinking. Reducing this activity does not require eliminating thoughts, but changing how you engage with them. Techniques such as journaling, where you externalize thoughts onto paper, can help offload mental content and reduce the need for continued internal processing. Creating a consistent pre-sleep routine acts as a behavioral cue that reinforces the transition into a relaxed state. When the same sequence of calming activities is performed each night, such as dimming lights, reducing noise, or engaging in quiet reflection, the brain begins to associate these actions with sleep. This conditioning effect makes it easier to shift into a sleep-ready state over time. Sensory input should also be managed carefully. Bright lights, loud sounds, and stimulating content can all activate the nervous system and delay sleep. In contrast, low light levels, minimal noise, and calming environments support the natural increase in melatonin and the reduction of alertness. Even small adjustments, such as lowering screen brightness or avoiding intense content before bed, can have a noticeable impact. There's also a cumulative effect to consider. The way you manage stress throughout the day influences how easily you can relax at night. If stress is continuously elevated, it becomes more difficult to downregulate quickly. Incorporating short periods of relaxation during the day can prevent excessive buildup of tension, making the nighttime transition smoother. By intentionally reducing both mental and physical activation before sleep, you align your behavior with the biological processes that support rest. This allows the nervous system to shift more efficiently into a state where sleep can occur naturally without prolonged effort or disruption. When these elements are aligned, sleep becomes a natural and efficient process rather than something you have to struggle to achieve. By regulating light exposure, managing sleep pressure, optimizing your environment, maintaining consistent timing, and deliberately calming the nervous system, you create the conditions for deep and restorative rest. Over time, this consistency strengthens your biological rhythms, improves recovery, and enhances overall mental and physical performance, making high-quality sleep a reliable foundation for every aspect of your life.